So everyone has played 4.0, and now you've seen the amazing storyline, and you have progressed through Knights of the Fallen Empire. Now what's next? And this is sadly what many of us predicted. We sat here and we said, hey, look, BioWare is going to make this story content. They've been known to make good stories. Great, cool. You're going to have great immersive story with consequences that are going to matter. They're going to make a difference, which means by saying that, that means my experience will be different than the players next to me because my decisions mattered and gave me a different consequence. It gave me a different feeling, a different experience. But the reality of it is a cookie cutter feel. If you kneel, if you don't kneel, Valkorion dies. When Lana Beniko is about to die and Valkorion says, oh, use my power to save her. If you decide to not use the power, Koth comes and saves her. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. It's insulting in a way because these decisions don't matter. And historically in BioWare games, decisions mattering is a huge part of why their storylines are great because you feel like you're in the driver's seat, that you are making a difference in the game you play. It is something unique that BioWare does. But unfortunately, I feel that the devs currently working on story do not understand this concept or are trying to fool their player base. They are trying to trick their player base into thinking that, hey, you are actually getting a unique and different experience than the player next to you. Whether Valkorion gets stabbed in the chest with a lightsaber or his son kills him, but he still dies and all that nonsense. Okay, so you get to the end of the storyline, beautiful cutscenes, the graphics were updated nicely, which is very cool, I thought. Some interesting characters, Valkorion being the most notable, but Valen is somewhat intriguing to a degree. I mean, if not a bit overly simplistic, you may wonder about her motivations a bit. I think Arkin's twin brother would have been an interesting character, kind of an anti-type to himself. That would have been interesting to see, but he's dead. And when you look at the trailer for Knights of the Fallen Empire, it seems like the trailer storyline is actually better than the freaking game itself. I mean, I think I got more emotional or more emotionally attached to the game watching the trailer than I ever did actually playing through the game itself, which is kind of sad. And is that what BioWare has become? Just a company of gimmicks, of tricks, trying to get their player base to play their products and kind of half delivering on promises, not fully realizing and fleshing out what they set out to do. So now, let's talk a little bit about the end game. BioWare said earlier that they fully understand this is an MMO, but they are focusing on story. Okay, we already talked about why I felt that the storyline didn't deliver. It didn't deliver. Okay, but now that that's done, and that sucks because that was at the expense of Endgame. Where do you go from there? Because everyone's played the storyline. Many people played it in a day or two, and now they're saying we're going to release a chapter a month. And the chapters seem to be taking about 45 minutes to get through. So how can you justify, I'm going to stay subbed in this game to see 45 minutes of content a month? When it comes to endgame, whether that's PvP or raiding or doing flashpoints or even crafting, that is a more of a time sink. That takes more time to get those done. And with PvP, the content is the other players, right? Because the challenge varies. Every time you play someone different, you get a different experience. Yes, the palette switching, different arenas would be fantastic, of course, but for the most part, the challenge or the content is the player base. Then you get to PvE. It's a little bit different because PvE is static. It stays the same, so you need new content, but you know what? They raised all these new ops up to level 65, and I was mixed on this because on the one hand, the ops are a bit older, so there's many players that are, let me just put it to you like this. Okay, look, if you were a top elite raider that just one-shot every boss, and I'm talking about your whole team, all 8 of you were just top-end players, Yeah, the new expansion is going to be pretty boring because you're just going to go back into the old content and just go one shot every boss again. But you are a minority. You are a minority. The vast majority of players will go into these older ops and they will wipe at least once or twice or three times, or even maybe spend a night of wiping on certain bosses because they did the content before and they forgot how to do it optimally because the player base that plays at an exceedingly high level is very small. Now, I would like to think I'm a good raider for the most part. But you are at the mercy of your raid team. You're at the mercy of the players around you. And while the players around you may be skilled, they may be good at what they do, most players in the game are not of the Zora's quality or the top end rating quality. They're just not there. And so what happens is you go through the content and you progress through that content again. But it's kind of like not so bad because you haven't been in there so long. But I think what happens is players get on the bandwagon. They go, oh, this is how I'm supposed to feel. I'm supposed to be upset that there's no new content, right? Even though I probably will have a hard time clearing the old content again, I should say. Um, so I'm a little mixed on that. Them not producing new ops, of course, is an oversight. I mean, you need your top end progressive rating community in the game. It showcases the game. It gets your game out there. Other games can look at this game and go, wow, that's some really exciting top end content I'd like to try. And what you do is you attract a player base from other games, but because this game's reputation is known for being buggy, for the player base being somewhat derp to a degree, I think many other games, WoW, you could say, who knows, Terra, Guild Wars, Rift, these other game players are reluctant to come here if they're into endgame because they know where the devs are taking the game. And so is it too late? Is it too late to save Star Wars? And people may say the game doesn't need saving. Well, let me tell you something. This story outing that we just had is not producing the results that were desired. It brought a few players in, good surge of players came back. Now they're leaving. They did the story. They beat the game. You see that? They beat the game. You don't beat MMOs, by the way. Okay, so they're leaving. Now, in the guild that I run, Punishment, on the Harbinger, I have 2 raid teams, and they are progressing through the content, and they are having fun. They are enjoying the hard modes, and they are moving into nightmare quality type rating. So there are things to do. Okay. What I find to be extremely disconcerting, though, is just the level of customer support. I mean, the GTN's been bugged for weeks already. You got the Rackle event, it's bugged. The devs are on vacation, but is there so really only the creative department devs can fix the game? Like their crew or their employee base is so small that if anyone goes on vacation, the game is just at a standstill. Nothing can be fixed. I mean, I've never seen a game like that. I've never seen a game where devs go on vacation and then all these bugs just stay in the game. They can't be fixed. I mean, it's a bit insulting, to be honest. I mean, you're selling content. You're saying, here's a rat goal event. This is something for you to do. This is a reason to be subbed. Oh, it's broken. We're not going to fix it right away. So just deal with it being broken. I mean, how does your player base perceive that? It's a bit cocky, I think. Maybe you're just solely relying on your IP. You're just solely relying on the fact that the new movie's coming out. I mean, that is a bit ridiculous when you think about it. And it's a bit sad because being such a great IP, imagine how good the game could really be. Imagine the brilliance and the player base you'd have if the game actually was able to get it right. Because right now it gets a little bit right and it gets a whole lot wrong. So you may say, well, what are you doing here? Like, why are you in this game? I'm in this game for a few reasons. One, it's my first MMO. So I don't have the perspective of playing World of Warcraft for years or playing Rift for years or Terra or Guild Wars. If I had that perspective, I think I would have been gone a long time ago, but because it's my first MMO, and because I have that bit of loyalty to the game, and it was my first experience, I'm reluctant to leave. Not to mention the fact that there's a guild that I run, there's relationships that I've built, there's players that I know across the server, and the content. I mean, I've invested years into learning these classes, the rotations, all these type of things. So the animosity, or I should say the frustration would be more correct, comes from having that investment and then wanting the payoff, being new ops, being a larger player base, being a less buggy game. That would be fantastic. And I just don't understand how a game with the IP Star Wars just does not have the money to get this stuff done. Because players say, oh, the devs are lazy, the devs don't care. I don't think it's true, okay? I don't think the devs are lazy, and I don't think that the devs hate their player base. I think the devs are frustrated with their player base. I think they've been frustrated for a long time. I think they've always wanted to give the best product possible, but they have been pretty much held back by poor business choices. So they made some poor business choices that have really hurt them. And they have also been probably hurt by their budgets. I mean, you can see the budget problems just looking at the game. They're not being thrown enough money to get the game up to the quality that it needs to be. And so at that point, they just go, hey, look, this is a product. And like a lot of things in corporate America right now, and you look at products in general, you lower the quality of the product to increase your profits. So the less quality, the less money you have to spend, it just makes the end bottom line more. It your customer base, like, who cares as long as they're still here, right? I mean, if they're going to pay for an inferior product or a less quality product, then we're going to do it because that's what we should be doing. It has nothing to do with ethics. It has nothing to do with reputation, wanting to put out anything. It's just the bottom line. And so as a community, as a player base, what do we do? Do we say, hey, enough's enough? You know, we want a quality product or we're leaving. Or do we just say, hey, look, it's Star Wars. I'm just going to stay here till Kingdom Come because it's Star Wars, and the devs maybe know that? Maybe they know that. Maybe it's not the devs. Let's go higher. Let's say BioWare, corporate BioWare or EA knows that. And so they're like, that players are going to be here until we're just going to get as much money as we possibly can. You look at games like WoW. WoW has made some interesting choices as well. I don't think they've made the optimal choices. I think they've made better choices for sure. I was in WoW for a little bit, checking it out. And Blizzard in general, they don't have that kind of budget issue. I mean, for them, it comes down to just making a bad philosophy choice. You know, they lose players based on decisions they make in that sense. But in terms of money, they got the money to make what they want to make. And that's what Star Wars doesn't have. They don't have the money to make what they want to make. And so if they make a poor business decision, it's not like World of Warcraft where they can just bounce back and just change it. I mean, they have millions and millions and millions of subs. If they lose 5 million subs, they still got millions of subs. And if they lost 2 million subs tomorrow, they would still be the biggest MMO out there. So when you look at this game, it's going to take very strategic, brilliant development to make this game good. And you're going to have to do things that really bring players into your game. And it's like, what do players want to see? Well, one thing they want to see is endgame. Now, when I think about this game, I just think about such a missed opportunity. I mean, it hurts, man. It hurts to think about how good this game could have been. I sincerely, wholeheartedly believe that if this game had been given a little more time in development, okay, a little more time, but more, they had really focused on what they needed, which was to make sure that there was enough endgame at launch, have things like Group Finder. This game would have been a serious contender for World of Warcraft. Like, it would have really held on to a huge player base, and it wouldn't be what it is now, just kind of another MMO on the market, right? It would have been like, wow, if there's Star Wars and there's World of Warcraft, there's these two MMOs, but that's not going to happen because this game totally bombed because bad decisions, bad de- dev- developers out of touch with their player base, not understanding what the market is looking for. And sometimes you get development companies like Nintendo where they kind of tell their player base this is what you want. When you think of Legend of Zelda, you think of the Wind Waker and that art direction they took, the real cartoony, shell-shaded look. A lot of players said, "Ew, what is that? I don't want that. I want realistic. I want to see a fully rendered, realistic-looking Link in Zelda, and that's what I want." And Nintendo said, "No, no, you want this. This is what you want. This is what we're doing." And they did it, and it came out, and everyone loved it. It was like, wow, that's so cool. Look at these graphics. It's like I'm watching a cartoon, and the expressions on the characters, and people got into it, and they ate it up. But Nintendo wasn't stupid. They didn't just stick to doing that. Look, the next game that came out, they went ahead and went with a more realistic look, and players loved that game. And they mixed it up. And then with this game, the devs don't seem to be able to do that though. They seem to do their own thing. I think at first they listened to the player base way too much, and then not enough. And it's like they need to be, a little subjective, but also realize that hey, look, when you look at metrics, metrics don't tell you everything. Metrics basically tell you what you want to see. If you want to see that the end game is suffering, then you'll see that, and you'll see that hey, the end game's suffering, so we don't need to make end game. And so now, what are you going to see now, though? I mean, looking at the metrics, you can see, and I know the devs can see this, how many players played through your storyline twice? How many players spacebarred through the entire thing? How many players, even made more characters? I mean, all that. I don't think the metrics are going to be exactly what they want to see, and it's just kind of sad. I mean, I really would like to see this game be, and I thought 4.0 was going to be. Hopefully, I mean, I had another player from another game telling me that I was just, foolhardy. I was just being completely optimistic to think that 4.0 was going to turn the game around. And I heard what he said, and I thought, what, he's probably right. Maybe this is the time to get out of the game now. But I said, I just want to see 4.0 out. I want to see 4.0. I want to see what they got in mind for the game. And I sat there with eager anticipation. I sat there, waiting for the unveil of the storyline. I was pretty disappointed with the consequences and the choices and them not mattering, because to me that was important. I'm not the type of player where I just want to watch a narrative do its own thing. I want to be actively involved in that narrative, and that's just because of I've been playing BioWare games. Knights of the Old Republic, 1, 2, Mass Effect, 1, 2, 3. You get Dragon Age. I mean, these are kind of what I expect from BioWare, so I would only expect that, hey, if we are returning to form, whose form are you returning to? Your own? Okay, and this was the form that you used to do, so that's what I expect. Okay, so don't hate on me because I was expecting a BioWare game to be a BioWare game, so at least for 4.0. Now, in terms of their PR, it's just ridiculous. I mean, I am not seeing any type of communication from the devs in terms of what their plans are. Now, I've heard, because I've spoken with one of the devs that works at BioWare. He's not one of the big league guys, but, he works in development, and, I won't reveal his name, but we'll just say he said BioWare does not talk about any projects too far in advance because they don't want a negative opinion going out about their product, and that's spreading and players getting the wrong idea. And I'm like, well, that does not show a lot of confidence in your product, now does it? If you are so afraid to unveil new products and new things because you think your player base is not going to like it, then one, you either have really poor self-esteem and do not have any confidence in the product that you're releasing, or two, it's garbage. You know that your budget is so low that what you're releasing is retarded. And then if the players really look at what they're getting, they're going to say, screw this, I'm out of here. It's one or the other. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. So my question is for the rest of you that are listening to this. What are you going to do? What is your plans for this game? We have all said loud and clear through the forums and whatnot what we want to see. We want more story. We want more story. Okay, we want more endgame. But the storyline is not delivering. It's not delivering. You can say, "Oh, it was good. Yeah, it was good. It was well voice acted, and yeah, it was." Yeah, but it was not a Bioware story game. That's not. You didn't get it, right? You can sit there and lie to yourself and say that it was good and you did, but you didn't get it. And then the end game, it's like the end game is actually pretty decent in terms of having 9 ops to do. But this is coming from the standpoint that I'm rating with a lot of players that have never done some of this content. For players that had smashed through all this content, wholeheartedly agree that yes, you're getting screwed over and that yes, it will be completely boring for you to just go through and smash through this content again. So I totally get that. Totally get it. And will you see new ops? I don't know. Who knows? February is coming around the corner, and then you may hear about an op coming out in September. I mean, realistically, that's what's gonna happen, guys. February is gonna come around. The devs are gonna wake up from their little hibernation, and they're gonna say, "Guys, we got some end game coming. We got a PvP map, and then we have a new op due out in September or October." And you're like, "Oh, I gotta wait. Wait, what? I gotta do okay." And that's primarily what's gonna happen. So, anyway, let's hear your comments. Let's hear your concerns. Let's hear what you think about the future of Star Wars and what's going to happen. And we do these state of the game type, I don't know what you call them, shout outs to the community because the devs don't really seem to do much state of the game. So we have to kind of do our own state of the game or perceived state of the game. All right, back out. Thank you for watching.